Good morning, it's Tails from Studio Wildfire, and here I am in Foundry. So what I'm going to do today is have a look at the tools in Foundry for building adventure maps using map tiles. So I'll start off with the most important thing. Now I've already created a scene here that you can see it's actually blank at the moment. So what I'll do is I'll go through everything you need to do from scratch. So let's get rid of this. I'll delete that. Okay, so we have no scene, we have nothing. First thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to load one of my map tiles packs, assuming that you have one already. So you would go into game settings, manage modules, have a look for, so that at the moment there's map tiles 2, map tiles 3, map tiles 4. So you could just load one of those. I'm going to start with dungeon map tiles, the first set. Put a little tick in there and then save module settings. It may come up with a second window telling you it needs to restart because, you know, it may need to do so. So load that. You'll probably see that in your compendium section there should be a folder called Studio Wildfire, another one called map packs, and in there should be the dungeon map tiles folder, which has a little readme file which tells you, gives you some information about where to find the assets. So Foundry, data, modules, dungeon map tiles, images is where you will find them. I'll show you that in a moment. Some links to tutorials, questions, all that sort of jazz. So yeah, let's get to the next thing. So that's just the readme file. You don't really need to do much with that. What you do need is a scene to build your adventure map into on. So what we're going to do is click on create scene. I'm just going to call it test scene. Here we go. And you'll get this little pop-up box. So we've got the name of our scene, navigation name. It's an alternative for the nav bar up here. Whether it's for the game master, you can add in background images and all that sort of jazz. At this point in time, you don't really need to do anything with it. I do like to have my scene zoomed in to 100%. So I usually put 1 down in zoom. 1 means 100%. Next, click on the grid. So we want to leave it as a square. We want to take it off the default 100 to 180, because that's what I use for my map tiles. Then you're going to want to set a scene dimensions. This is going to be how large your canvas is. So let's just say we're making a map, and we want it to be, because you've got to do it in multiples of 180, because each grid square will be 180. But let's just say we want to do a map that is, say, 11 by 11. 11 by 11 grid squares. So grab out our trusty calculator. Right, so here's our trusty calculator. So we go 180 times by 11 gives us 1,980. So since I'm doing a square map, that's what was it? 1,980? 1,980. There we go. And because it's going to be a square, I do it in the height as well. Oops. Don't forget to, this little icon in the middle here, if you leave that unchecked or checked like that is, that means that the dimensions will maintain scaling. Sometimes you need to uncheck it, to put a little dash through it, so that you can change the dimensions without sort of doing weird things. Padding percentage. I like to just run it down to 0 so we don't have any padding around our image, but sometimes it can be useful to have padding around the image if you want to stage assets just off the side of your adventure map. That's where you would sort of, give it a little bit of padding. Next up, offset background. We don't need to do anything with that. Grid scale, just leave it at 5 feet. And that's how big each grid scale is. Then just go save changes. It'll ask you to change the dimensions. You save yes. And there we go. Now, you'll notice that it's the squares got bigger. That's because when I set the configuration on the basics, I set the zoom to 1. So it zoomed the map to 100%, which is what we want. Now, the map is all ready to go. Now we need some art assets. So you'll notice over here on the left-hand side, we've got a bunch of 2 columns of icons. One that we're looking for, so we can access our tiles, is this icon here called Tile Controls. So we click on that. But you'll notice that depending upon which icon is selected in the first row, the icons in the second row will change. As you see, I'm going through here. So the first one is, token control. Then we've got measurement control, tile controls, which is the one that we want. Then there's drawing tools, so you can draw all over the map. We're not going to need to worry about that. Wall controls, we'll need to look at that later. And lighting controls, and again, we'll need to look at that later as well. That's about that. So we're going to jump back up here to the tile controls. Now, the first one is select tile. So once a tile is down, you can click to use the selection, and you can draw out a square to grab everything within the square, or you can just click on elements. Obviously, because I've got nothing down at the moment, there's nothing for me to select. The next icon is place tile. You pretty much automatically start using that option the moment you switch to placing tiles. So what I'm going to do is go to the next one, which is the tile browser. You click on that, and this little window will pop up. Now this is, as the name says, our tile browser. There are 2 options up the top here: user data, core data. Core data is the data that is core to the program itself. You're probably never going to need to go and look at that. This is all the information. These are all the folders for the program itself, for Foundry itself. I rarely use that. User data is the one that you're going to be using the most. And the user data is, as the name says, user data. It's all the stuff that we ourselves as users of the program have plugged into the program. Now, we're using material from modules that we've uploaded. So we want to look in the modules folder. We're using dungeon map tiles, so we use the dungeon map tiles. So that's the folder. You'll notice here that there is a folder per every module that you have installed. So we want the dungeon map tiles, and then if you had have read the compendium pack about this pack, the README, it says that you can find the assets in Foundry data. So modules, which is where we are at the moment, dungeon map tiles, which is our module that we're in, and then images. So we'll jump into, go back to our scene, and we jump into our images folder. And here are all the folders for all the different types of assets that we have in this pack. Now, a little bit of navigation information for you. You can filter the results, so you'll be filtering this, so you could search for particular things, and it's all keyword driven. Display mode. Okay, the default view is a list of folders, so it's actually this icon at the beginning. The next default view is thumbnail view. Now we're not going to get a different view at the moment because we're looking, this folder only has folders in it, so it's always going to use this layout. But if we go into, say, let's just go into dead ends. So there's 4 files in the dead ends folder. So if we go from the list view to the thumbnail view, you'll see that we get a little thumbnail and the name of the file. If we go to the next view, we get a tile view, slightly bigger view of each asset that's in the folder, and it drops the name off the view. The next view is if we go to images view, where it's got a little the name sort of in a little box up the top, and then a large image preview of what each asset is, and there's just one, it's like a column of assets. Pretty much we're going to be using the tiles view the whole way through. So and then a quick means of navigation. This little button at the top here, it's called, when you highlight it, it says traverse back. Basically means jump up one folder. So for example, at the moment in the folders tree, at the moment, or our path, we're currently in the dead ends folder. We want to jump up to the images folder, which has everything in it. We can just hit that icon and see, boom, we're back up to the top. It's a good little quick way of jumping up. You can also move around by simply just typing in, hitting enter. There we go. We've jumped up to that file. You can just go /images, jumped into the images folder. It's easier if you just jump around using the traverse and then clicking on each folder name. The image video browser window, what I like to do when I'm building in the adventure map, because I like to have as much map as possible in the background, I like to slide it over to the side so it covers up the side panel, as you can see. Because while we're map building, we don't really need to see that side panel. We want to see our assets. And then you just basically start find the asset that you like, and it's a drag and drop. Grab the asset, drop it into the window, into the canvas in the background. That's how it works. You just drag, drop, drag, drop. It's pretty simple. Now, let's have a look at the controls for each asset once you've actually placed it onto the map canvas. Now, you'll notice that when I select an asset, and it's pretty much the same thing as using the select tiles option up the top here. It does the exact same thing. Whereas if we draw out a square, a rectangle, it selects all of them, and we can move them around as a group. So for example, I could just select these two, move these two over there, select that one, put it over there. And you'll also notice that because we have set the canvas to use a map grid of 180 pixels, all of our art assets snap into place, which is very handy for quickly map building. So if I just if I select something and hit the delete key, it deletes it. Right? So that's a quick way of getting rid of stuff. So I can just quickly drag, drop, place it on the canvas. Oh, I don't want to use that one. Delete. Make certain it's deleted. Okay, so let's say we have put down something. What controls do we have? So if you click on it, you've got this little circle down the bottom here. That allows you to scale it. You can scale the object, the artwork around. And again, everything will snap to the grid, so it'll it'll attach or snap to each of the grid lines, but it'll also snap to the middle, so you can do like half. But you pretty much, I find I very, very rarely, if ever, need to scale art assets. Next thing, so we've got our art asset down, we've got it selected. Right click on it, you will get this interface up. Now, let's start over here. So this elevation it's really only useful for controlling tokens, because sometimes you want to put in an elevation for the token. So for example, the token might be floating 10 feet in the air. So you would come and write in here 10 to say that it's floating. Oops, accidentally clicked on a macro to say that it is floating 10 feet in the air. You're not going to need to do that with an art asset that you're building to be part of your map. And how we get these little controls up is, well, it is for me right click. So right click brings them up, right click brings them, puts them away, left click selects, left click and left drag selects the map tile or the art asset that we're using, and just selecting off in some blank area deselects it. Okay, the next items are these two icons here: bring to front, then to back. They're pretty self-explanatory if you have overlapping items, which at the moment we don't have, but let's just put in something. So let's just say, there we go. So we can see this tile is overlapping this one. It's appearing over the top of it. But let's just say we want this one to be on top. Oop. So we come along and we go send to back. Ooh, why is that not doing that? It's because I've get rid of that. Okay, let's start that again. I think that's because I had marked it to be, yes, there we go. That was a little snafu because of what I was showing earlier. Because I had set that tile to be 10 feet in the air, changing it, bring it to back or front wasn't mattering, because this one was set to be 0, but this one was set to be 10. I'll just set that back again. So because it was 10, clicking send to back didn't do anything for height, because this is still set to be 0. This is still set to be 10 feet in the air. So if I put this back to 0, there, it changes now. Okay, so that was a little snafu for my part. But this is the bit that I was trying to show, that if you have tiles over the top of one another and they're not showing correctly, like for example, let's just say we want this top one to be over the top of this one. So we would click on this one and click bring to front, and it jumps it to before this one. In Foundry, unless there are modules that you can install that will do this, there is no real layering. Like, we can't manually go and tell the program, this is on layer 5 and this is on layer 6. It basically looks at each piece and sort of goes, oh, you put this one down first, you put that one down second, so this one that you put down second should be over the top of this one, because that's the way you put it down. But they're all considered to be on the same layer or level. So it's not until you actually start to, you click on it and go, okay, send that to the back. Now this one appears in front. It's not until you actually get to that it becomes important. But because the way that we use map tiles, where we're putting them each in their own individual map grid square, overlay is rarely going to be a problem. The only time you'll really get into overlay problems is when you start to use wall overlays, which we'll get to in a moment. But let's build a room. Let's build a little mini map. So we've got the start of our floor, so let's just plonk in some more pieces. Whoops, I've already used that piece. Put that one there. So we'll make a square room, 3x3 square room here. And then let's just say we have a corridor coming off this way. And it gets to the edge of our map, so we'll then have it turn. And I'm using, to move around the map, I'm using the right mouse button, so I'm just click and holding, and I'm doing it in an area where there is no assets put down. So yeah, just click and drag. Let's continue. So we come around here, then we have our little passageway turn, and then we go, oh, we'll have another room here. So we go. Oh, I'm going to move that one down. Let's put a drain in the middle of this room. Actually, let's do the same thing with this one. So we'll grab that tile, put it over here, put this drain in the middle of that room, and then we'll put some more tiles there. And then maybe let's have this room, another exit comes out. So maybe that's our entrance. And we'll have a room over here. So this room is right on the edge of that one. And once again, we'll have a drain in the middle of the room. Well, actually, let's have a switch. Put a switch in the middle of the room. There we go, and we'll have a connect there. So this is our really, really simple adventure map. So we'll have a room there and a room there, and then we'll come down here, we'll have another one. We'll have this will be an intersection. A turn. And, oops, go away. And we'll have this drain. You can go in here. And I'm just quickly plonking down tiles. There we go. So that's the basic floor plan. So we've got our floor in. Now we want to go and put in our walls. Now I'm going to try, this is the first time I'm going to try this, so it may not work the way I think it'll work. Hopefully it'll work the way I think it'll work. So let's jump up back to our images folder, and we need to find a folder called Walls Overlay. Here we go. Now I'm going to go and use this little icon here. See how it says foreground layer? I'm going to try and make my wall overlays my foreground. So this may or may not work. I may be able to make a complete fool of myself here. So hopefully as I drag in each wall overlay, so we need this one here. So each wall overlay should hopefully, while I've got this set, should be coming up in our foreground layer. Now the reason I'm doing that, hopefully I'm right, I could be wrong, is that when we go and set our dynamic lighting, the walls will actually appear above our dynamic lighting layer. Hopefully will look good. So let's just grab the right corners. I need, where's it gone? Where is it? I need that one I need. There we go. It goes right in there. and then just go in there like that. So this way we're giving our map some three-dimensionality by having walls and shadows. And then we have to build around here, so we need a doorway that comes in there. We then need, here we are, so corner over there and a corner over there. That one goes right there. So this one goes here, and this one goes here. And then that side and that side. There we go. So that's that room and corridor done. Now we need to do this room, and pretty much the same thing. And corner over there. Where's this corner? There. And then we need the sides. There we go. Now you could see how the background is grey. You could go and set it to white, because I do white on the edges of my walls. So let's just experiment with that. So go configure, background color. Let's just make it white. Save changes. There we go. So now our walls disappear into our background. Now you've got to remember that this isn't really important, because when we put in dynamic lighting, when you have a token on here, it's not going to see what's outside the walls. Okay, and then we need a piece there, and that piece there. So now we've got this corridor. And we need to have a corner right there. And a corner. There we go. Then we're coming up this way. And once again, we need to make a corner. Just like that. And we come into this room. Now, I'm also going to have to do this room here. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these curved walls. Now you'll see something that looks a little broken, but it shouldn't matter. Assuming everything works the way I think it's going to work. There we go. Because see how there's poke through? So the wall is here, but there's poke through here. Hopefully, assuming I've done everything correctly, it will not matter, because when we put in our dynamic lighting, you won't see that. So we come around, so we need a top. There we go, and we need a top, a bottom, which is this one, and then a side, which is this one. So that's that room done, and then we need to come around to this one, and I'm going to do something a little with this one. So I'm going to use these diagonal walls. Oop, there we go. Just to make it look a little different. And there like that. And then we need the doorway, which is this one. There we go. So there's the basics of our map is completed. So we've put in some rooms, we've put in the walls around the rooms. And we've got a little entrance over here. Now let's go and put in so we now need to look at our wall controls. So this is, or actually we should probably put in some doors. Okay, so let's go to wall controls. Draw doors. Oh no, that's drawing the door itself. So let's go back to our tiles. Let's go hunting for doors. Doors. Door overlays. Here we go. So we're going to put in so this is this is like a stone door. So we'll go in here. Then we could have, say, like a wooden door. Now my question becomes, how do we rotate? I've completely forgotten how to rotate token tiles. Whoops. Ah, here we go. Rotation. Let's just go 45. Oh, no, we want 90. So double clicking gets up this window. There we go. So we've rotated it 90 degrees and we go and put it there. And then we have another door. Bring it in. Double click on it. Rotation, we want it 180. Not 1000, we want it 180. There we go. It can go right there. Then, do we just want to have that one there? Do we want another one? Let's pop in another one. Again, let's give it a rotation of 180 degrees. So we're flipping it around and we're putting it over there. Put another one here. Let's just put a simple wooden door just here. There we go. So we've got some doors in. Our map is pretty much done. You know, we've got some doors to block entrances. So now we want to look at our dynamic lighting and our walls. So we click on this wall controls button in the first column, and it'll bring up this row of columns. I mean, this row of buttons. So this column, it's not a row, it's a column of buttons. So it brings up this column of buttons here. So we have rectangular selection walls. We have basic walls, we've got terrain walls, we've got invisible walls, we've got ethereal walls, then we've got draw doors, secrets, windows, which we don't have, clone, and we've got force snap to grid lines. So I'm going to leave that force snap to grid lines should be on. We'll see how we go with that. Close all doors and clear walls. Okay, so let's have a look here. Rectangular wall selection. We just want to draw basic walls. So we go here to here. Now see an interesting thing. See how, as I got my cursor over this point, the walls are fading out. That's because the walls were put on the foreground layer. And I'm hoping that with them on the foreground layer, they will overlay the dynamic lighting, which you'll see in a moment. So let's try and get these terrain walls. Okay, let's go with that. Okay, so there's one to there, to there. So I'm just click and dragging from so will it work? So if I do that, it just snaps onto that. So we need to click and drag from a point where there is no wall. So from here to here. here to there. Whoops. Let's see if Control Z, yep, undoes that. So I'm just adding in all of the walls. Now you'll have to forgive me. It has been quite a while since I used Foundry to make adventure maps. I usually make adventure maps in another program like GIMP or Photoshop or something like that. I'm doing this to sort of give like a demonstration of the complete process that you would go through making adventure maps in Foundry itself. Now, I'm going to zoom out a bit, and you use your mouse wheel to zoom in and out. Probably actually work better if I work from this position. Now this is going to be the tricky bit, because I want to have my walls. I don't want to do a diagonal. I want to sort of go like that, and then I want to select this piece. I'm going to turn off snap. Oops. So I want to go to select. There we go. So I want to select that piece, and I want to drag it. Yeah, I want to drag it to about here. No, 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 no. No, go away. Like that. Then we want to go back to this. So this is good. This is the interesting bit. I need to sort of snap those together like that. Okay. So what I might do is I might draw a centerpiece. Like that. And then, whoops. So this is where I get a little bit stuffed up. Let's get rid of that. Go back to this. Okay, so I've drawn that. Trying to select. Oh, what's going on? How about I just get rid of that? Just draw. There we go. Okay. So then I want this to come down. Oops. That to go to there. I want that to there. One here. How about I just draw this here? It's because I'm trying to do curved walls and it's being a bit funky. If I just go there to there. There we go. the same thing here. I'm going to draw another one. There, like that. So I think, so we've got our walls around there, walls around there. Set this back on. Because the rest of these should be easy to put in. It's just those curved ones that were being a bit funky. Nope. There we go. I think there we are. Excellent. So we've got our walls in. Now we need to put our doors in. So draw doors. And it should just be a simple case. So we're going to have a draw that one there, and then I'm going to put it here. Draw it and then put it in. That seems to work the best. So while it's down and I'm in this same selection mode, grab. See how when I mouse over the little circles, or the node points, I think they're called, they sort of enlarge to show that you're about to select it. That seems to be the best way to control these points or work with them. Okay. Put those there. I think that's all the doors, and that's all the walls. I think we're good. Okay, so let's have a look at putting in. Let's get rid of the image browser. Let's have a look at putting in some lights. Okay, lighting controls. Here we are. So this, I think, is where the lighting starts to really give things a real good look. Okay, so we want to. So let's have a look. So we've got draw light source. We've then got adjust scene darkness. Let's try that. So we're currently, let's darken up the scene a little bit. Let's darken it all the way up. Now, so that's this adjust scene darkness. GM vision. Okay, so we go to, I'm assuming this is what it looks like as a player. Whereas this is the game master, like where we've got game master vision, so it's kind of bright. It's like having it backlit. So let's go to this. I'm assuming this is what it would look like to a player. Now this should be okay. Transition to daylight. Transition to darkness. This is reset fog of war. So let's reset fog of war. Okay, and this should be draw light source. Let's just put a light source here. Okay. So this really shows how long it's been since I made something in Foundry. So when you place a light source, you're placing the bulb, which is our source of the emitter. Then we draw out the circumference that light source is going to take. So I only drew out a small light. So let's just select it, get rid of it. So let's make it pretty bright. So let's make it that it would sort of shine down to, say, down to here. So that's 10, so that's 5 feet, 10 feet, 15, 20 would be to about here. Okay. So we've got a pretty bright light in there. Now, let's see what happens if I double click, we get our ambient light controls. Constrained by walls. Yes. Emission angle. Rotation angle. Priority lighting color. Color intensity. Darkness activation range. You may specify a range of darkness levels during which light source will be visible. Oh, so that's if you've got lights that only come on during darkness. Okay. Coordinates, that's the position of it. Elevation, that's its elevation from the ground. Light radius. So we have dim light. So let's just make it dim light to 10 and bright light to 10. So that actually makes it small. So let's give it dim light to 20. And bright light 20. Okay, so we can actually have bright light within the dim light. So we want to have it so it's bright out to 10 feet, which is to here, and dim out to another 10 feet. So yep, okay, cool. Light animation. Let's have a look at that. Light animation type. So we could go witching wave. Ooh. We could go chroma. Ooh. Energy field. Doesn't really. Fairy light. Ooh. Flickering light. So that could be like a camp, like a candlelight or something. Four screwed. Ooh. Okay, that's very sci-fi. Ghostly light. We could do a hexadome. That's could be a shield. Light dome. Yeah, could be another kind of shield. Mysterious emanation. Pulse. Okay. Pulsy waves. Radial rainbow. Okay, that's different. Revolving light. Oh, that could be like a sensor. Siren light. Ooh. Smoke patch. Yeah, I could work with that. Sound reactive pulse. Okay. Then we go for starlight. That's kind of cool. I like that. Let's have a look. So where do we got? Sunburst. Yeah. Swirling fog. Swirling rainbow. Torch. And a vortex. Ew. Okay, let's just go with the torch for now. Reverse direction. Nah, it doesn't really do anything. Animation intensity. Let's go for. So let's see what happens when we slide it down. Speeds it up. That's sort of. Yeah, it's a bit difficult to say. That speeds it up. That slows it down. Let's just go with that. Okay, what's this? Advanced options. Provides vision. So let's just keep that. So let's update the light source. I'm just going to save my changes. Zoom back in. Now there's an interesting thing happening here. So the light's being blocked by this doorway. So let's put in another light. Let's go over here. question is, why is this... Did I not put... Yeah, but... There's walls here. They should be blocking that off. Did I use the wrong walls? Terrain walls. Block site beyond the... Oh, block site beyond the second wall. I've used the wrong walls. That's why. I probably want these basic walls. Dope. So I'm going to have to redo this really quick. Okay, so let's just see if I can just... Yeah, let's... Whoops. Control Z. See if I can just quickly grab as much of these as I can. I'll just redo the whole lot. There we go. Okay, so let's do this really quickly. So we come along, we go along here. 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 Oops. Here. Watch this as I do. I bet if as I do around this light. Yep, there we go. It's actually starting to work the way I thought it would. Helps if you use the right thing. I'm a silly idiot. Oops. So I'll come back and do those curved walls in a moment. Do all these straight ones first. There we go, that's starting to look better. That looks a lot better. Oops. There we go. I think that's all the straight sections. Okay, so let's untap that. Zoom in and do a wall here. Put that there, that there. That over there. And that over there. So that's that one done. And then we want, you know, a quick bit there. This seems to be the quick way to do it, is just draw it off to the side and then drag it into position. Whoops. Goes there and there. Yeah, I think that's all the walls done. So let's go and whack in these doors. So again, I'll do them the same way. So quickly draw that there. Oh, I'll put the snap on. Snap them into position. Now, this isn't, you know, the way I'm doing this is not necessarily the right way. It's just a way to do it. I will never admit that I know exactly what I'm doing. So there you go. So there's all those put in. The light seems to be working correctly. So let's go to our... So we've got a light in there. Let's put another one. So each room will have a light. So double click on it. So we make... So it's dim light is out to 20 feet. Bright light is out to 10. There we go. Update light. So we've got one in there. Put one in here. So again, dim light, 20 feet. Bright light, 10. And 20, 10. There we go. So if we are doing token controls, so everything's put in. We've got lights, we've got dynamic walls. I'll have to grab a token and put a token in, but we've got our doors. So if we open our door, we see the light spills down this hallway. We close the door, close those up the light. Now this is the important thing to see as well. See how the darkness is hiding this area here? I may have to do the wall. I'll think about the wall overlays because I don't really like it how it fades out. I'll have to think about that because I do like the idea of having an overlay image. But as you can see here, see how we've got this poke through here, but the players aren't ever going to see it because the dynamic lighting cuts off the poke through, so you don't have to worry about it. Again, you know, open the door, light comes down the hallway. Open the door, light's coming through here. So that's pretty much how you build an adventure map with map tiles inside Foundry. And I use the dungeon map tile set, the very first set. I'll do another video with each different successive map tile set so you can see how it looks. But that's pretty much how you do it. Now, there is one thing I will mention. I actually don't recommend building. It's good for little adventure maps, like a little map like this, it's great. Big adventure maps with lots and lots and lots of parts, I actually recommend building those in a different graphics arts program. Like, get your hands on GIMP, it's free, it's great. I've got heaps of videos that show how to use it. Get your hands on another graphics program called Clip Studio Paint. Again, great program. If you've got the money to spend on a subscription, grab Photoshop. It's a fantastic program. But I mean, GIMP it's like Photoshop free. Grab it, it's fantastic. You will have many hours of building very detailed adventure maps in GIMP. But you can, as I just showed you, you can build adventure maps in Foundry. But I don't recommend doing it for, whoops, I think I just accidentally, accidentally pressed ESC. Just shows how much I talk with my hands. I don't recommend building really complex ones inside Foundry. It's good for simple maps, you know, few rooms, something like this. A small adventure map is good because you've got to remember that this is a lot. If I go to my tile controls, these are all lots of little pieces. So the program's got to track where all these little bits and pieces are, and the state of every little bit and little component. So what I actually do, this is how I build adventure maps. What I do is I build a big adventure map. I build it in GIMP, and I touch it up in Photoshop. I then export it as a flattened JPEG or a WebP, and I import it into as a single image into Foundry, and then I add the dynamic lighting as we've just done here. I add it in at that stage. So I actually don't do my map building in Foundry. I only recommend doing simple map building in Foundry. You know, if you want a little something small for on the go that you can just quickly whack together, this is great for it. But anything big and complex, build it in GIMP. It's so much easier. And you also can keep the raw design file in GIMP. So if you want to make changes. But as another thing I'll actually add, I added the walls in at the foreground layer. That was maybe, I was actually experimenting to see what would happen. That's maybe not exactly a good idea. It may be a better idea to actually put them in the normal. So for example, if we go to our controls here, don't have the foreground switched on when you're adding in the wall layers, because you'll end up with this. See how when I mouse over it, it fades out? That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not necessarily a good thing. You don't necessarily want your walls fading out of view. So yeah, I need to experiment with that more. But yeah, this is how you build adventure maps in Foundry with map tiles. Thank you for watching. I hope this has been educational. And keep your eye out for more videos, and hopefully I'll actually know what I'm doing next time. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next Monday. Oh, where's the button? Thank you for watching.